Hi, everyone. My name is Carolyn, but you might know me better as Mommy Ramblings because of my YouTube channel, Mommy Ramblings blog. I'm here today to tell you about something that's going on in YouTube and something that I need your help with exposing. Let me start and give you a little synopsis. I created this channel in February of 2012 as a supplement to my blog, mommyramblings.org. Now, up until mid-December of 2018, the family lifestyle blog that I founded in 2010 was my main concentration. Call it divine intervention or God's plan, but I hang up with my blog server while the holiday gift guide season was in full swing in November of 2018, changed that up completely. As any blogger knows, gift guides for the holidays are one of the busiest times and most chaotic times that bloggers go through. We receive a multitude of packages from the sponsors we're working with, and we scramble to get the items photographed, do unboxings, and write our reviews in a timely manner to get them added to our holiday gift guides on our blog for that season. I just happened to be in the throes of that when my server became unreliable and was down more than it was up. Phone calls and troubleshooting did nothing to resolve the issues, and there was not much to do but wait as those packages rose up around me, along with my stress and my frustration levels. While I waited and waited for my web host to fix these issues, a true crime case that gripped the country came to its culmination in November of 2018 as Christopher Watts agreed to a plea deal in the murder of his pregnant wife, Shanann, and daughters Bella and Cece Celeste. Along with this plea and the court hearing came the release of over 2,000 pages of case discovery to the public. And as I was waiting for my blog issues to be resolved, I dove into these case documents. I dissected the written transcripts, the police reports, the search warrants, and I watched the videos of the police cam footage, the interrogations, and the witness interviews. In addition, what made this case very unique is that the victim, Shanann Watts, left behind a legacy of videos and photos that gave us an intimate glimpse into her life as a wife, mother, daughter, sister, and successful businesswoman. These videos allowed us to get to know Shanann and made the senseless murder of this beautiful family so real and personal. As a person who followed true crime cases and loved doing research with so much information at my fingertips, I immersed myself into it. And I found myself falling asleep listening to the interrogations of Christopher Watts and then waking again in the morning to re-listen and listen to new ones as I made my morning coffee. The intense way that this case gripped me, it gripped the world. I made so many notes on my insights, observations, and perspectives, and I longed to share them with someone, but not everyone in my real life shared my passion for true crime, and those that did were not into this case as deep as I was. So what I wanted to do in my quest to get my thoughts and ideas out there, I ended up turning on my camera and recording a video. I deleted it, recorded it. I did that about 3 times before I actually decided to post it. And even then I almost scrapped the whole thing, but I did post it on December 13th. The next day I woke up to my inbox being flooded with notifications from YouTube. And they were from viewers who were expressing that they felt the same way about the things I talked about in the video, and that it was like they felt comfortable listening to me, and I felt like someone that they could share coffee with, like the neighbor next door or their friend. As the day went on, so did the notifications, and I could not believe the number of video views. My first video on this case was literally going viral. The comments kept coming in and there were way more encouraging, and they spurred me on to make another video. And I made these videos from another side of my kitchen with my countertop behind me filled with all of the packages that had been piling up while my server was down as my backdrop. The response to each new video kept the momentum going, and it spurred me to keep talking about my thoughts as I analyzed one interview after another in this case. In a matter of weeks, things were completely opposite of what they had been, and I turned into a full tube YouTube content creator, and my blog took a back seat. Fast forward to 2022, and I am a YouTube lifestyle creator, content creator, with a focus on true crime. I blog very little now, and when I do, it supplements my video content. It's funny how life has a way of changing completely, and those problems and crises that occur actually end up steering you in another direction. I truly believe everything happens for a reason. It's hard to accept that when everything's falling apart, right? I became known for my factual coverage on the Watts case, and that's how many people discovered me. We had a hashtag facts not fluff, and it resonated with many that were looking for real true crime case coverage that was not full of speculations, conspiracy, or clickbait. Connecting with like-minded people evolved into a growing community, and that community was filled with people whom I got to know and care about, which was very unexpected but very welcomed. I would never know how important that community would become a couple of years later. And I truly believe it was God's hand that put all of that in place, because I would rely on the strength of that community to support me in the very, very near future. I branched out. I started doing premiere videos with live chat that allowed me to connect in real time with the community, and then went on to do live videos where we could really get to know each other in real time. I had a vision for the channel, which I expressed to the community. I wanted to do something I had not seen done before. I wasn't even sure it was possible. In getting to know each other, we found that we had more in common than just true crime. We liked doing crafts, we liked reading, we liked collecting vintage things, and much more. I went on a quest to find the hardware and software needed to allow me to have panels of guests on live videos where we would discuss trials, crime cases, do crafts. My son Ray built me this computer and setup that I needed, and quite a setup it was. And I then went on the search for the software that I needed, learned how to use it, and in a few months, we were up and running with the start of what I had envisioned. And it just brought our community closer and allowed us to interact and engage in a way I would never have thought possible a few years earlier. We developed a type of extended family, very close friendships, and it would be vital to my life as a mother's worst nightmare happened when my son passed away tragically and unexpectedly on May 6, 2020. His loss allowed me to connect with others in our community who are part of that club that nobody wants to belong to. And we added live grief panels to our content, and together we would join together and help each other through the various stages of grief that never end when losing a child. Through my channel and content, I have been blessed to have connected with special people, including Rosemarie D'Alessandro, the mother of murdered Brownie Girl Scout Joan D'Alessandro, who was killed by her neighbor, a high school science school teacher, in 1973 in Hillsdale, New Jersey. Now, Rosemarie contacted me after her son saw a video that I made about her daughter, Joan. Rosemarie and I went on to do some video interviews about what happened to Joan and how she became very active and passed several laws and acts to protect victims after Joan's murder. I also connected with Sandra Rusak, mother of Shanann Watts, and Kim Devins, who's the mother of Bianca Devins, who was murdered in July of 2019. And horrifically, her killer posted the pictures of her murder on Instagram. And they were there for 20 to 30 minutes before they were able to be removed. And that's all because it's almost impossible just to reach right out and contact these social media companies. Together, we've met to try to pass new laws to protect victims and their families on these social media platforms, including YouTube. We have the wisdom and guidance of Rosemarie D'Alessandro, who many years earlier had been very successful at passing several laws and acts that protect victims, such as Joan's Law and Paula's Law. So it sounds probably to you like it's been all a very positive experience, right? Well, along with the good, there's been some bad. More than bad, there have been things that I could only describe as horrific, maybe even evil. Yes, evil. Frankly, I've experienced things that may have stopped a weaker person and sent them running from YouTube forever. I'm certain that's what they were designed to do. Almost immediately after our channel started to develop a strong following and impressive channel growth, the trouble started. One night when I was live in the winter of 2019, I received a call from someone who said that they were watching me and they were coming to kill me. When I hung up that phone to call the police, they started to leave several messages on her voicemail. They kept calling, leaving these disturbing messages. I actually have a video that I made of the messages on my channel in a plea to identify the caller, and that'll be linked in the video description if you'd like to hear it. I warn you, it's quite disturbing. We called the New York State Police that night, and it would not be the last time we reached out to them regarding threats we received. At the time, the individual was calling me. The county sheriff's department was getting calls from someone else or the same person saying that they left a pipe bomb in our yard and they were going to detonate it. The next morning, we found investigators from the sheriff's department combing our property looking for these explosives. I received threats through email as well. It seemed that whoever it was wanted to terrorize me by telling me that if I did not stop my channel and get off of YouTube, myself and my family would be attacked and hurt. The graphic emails were beyond disturbing and outlined the most heinous things that the writer wanted to do to myself, my children, and our youngest sons. Almost 2 weeks after that started, my chat was invaded by a woman from Boston who was hell-bent on becoming my BFF and co-host. The whole encounter with her lasted less than 8 weeks, but her stalking and abuse continued to this day. Long story short, she tried to take over my channel. She wanted to tell me what to do. She was impulsive, rough, and she fought with almost everyone. She wanted to turn the channel into a drama channel. She was constantly telling me to check out the content of several drama creators she watched. I did not want this at all, began to distance myself from her and have her up on panel less and less. One night she was on panel, she was fighting with other people, and it got to the point that it had to be stopped. As we got the whole situation calmed down and we thought it was resolved, she started up again to the point that she needed to be muted. She was furious, absolutely furious that she was muted. And you can hear that in the threats that are also documented and linked in the video description. But that fact that she was muted was just beyond comprehension to her. She couldn't understand it. How could this happen to her? A few nights later, she misconstrued something I said to say that I thought she was someone else that was on our panel. This didn't even make sense, wouldn't even be upsetting to any person, in my opinion, but she became enraged over this to the point that she wouldn't stop texting me one night about it. I had to go to sleep, and I said to her in my sarcastic humor, "It's enough. I didn't say you were that person. Give it up. Stop being such a drama queen. It's not attractive." And I went to bed. The next day, my family was out of town shopping in Pennsylvania, and the internet service, Wi-Fi, is sketchy at best, going through the mountainous regions there. So while we were going through, she was leaving voicemail after voicemail after voicemail, which all came through when we reached our destination and the Wi-Fi was better. Now I was floored at the number of voicemails that she literally blew my phone up. I played the first one and my mouth dropped when I discovered it was a death threat from her. Message after message grew increasingly more erratic, abusive, and disturbing. My husband listened with me, and we knew we had to cut her out of our lives and the channel ASAP. Our plan was for me to call her when we arrived home, hopefully diffuse her paranoid thoughts that were not based in reality, and then part ways. However, when I called her, she was impossible to reason with. She would not listen. She was frantic. She had disorganized thoughts. She wouldn't stop yelling long enough to even listen to reason. So when I got off the phone with her, I knew I had to just block her from the channel and make the police aware of her threats. I wrote an email to the channel moderators to let them know what transpired. And that is when I found out that 3 of them were connected to her. This is a lesson that is sad to learn, but there are often people that organize themselves and come together in order to accomplish a task. And some of that is taking down a channel. So when I sent out these emails to the moderators, she immediately had a copy and couldn't help herself from making me know it. So I had to also block the 3 moderators, inform the others, and we did our live show that night, which was very successful, despite her texting me that without her, the channel was going to flounder, and in her delusional thinking, saying that everyone was on the channel because of her, someone that was only there for 8 weeks and not even on panel, but a few nights. In fact, it was quite the opposite. People had left because of her and were now coming back now that I announced that she was no longer there. And she couldn't take that reality. She couldn't accept it, and she continued with voicemails until I blocked her numbers, and then new ones she would contact me from. At one point during one show that I was doing, I received an email from someone who said they were a friend of hers that said I must stop my show immediately because she was literally on her deathbed in the hospital after an attempt on her life, of her own attempt on her life of self-harm. They went on to say that I better pray she make it or they were going to prosecute me. It was just bizarre things that were said. Of course, they were totally denied when I brought them to light, but I had the text messages, which I was accused of making them up. Really? Okay. She then went on to post videos to a channel that she started. The videos were ridiculous. They were not even comprehensible to anyone. They were literally my content that was chopped up to make me say things, even though I was in different outfits. It was so clearly edited. People didn't even understand it, to which she said she had to write big descriptions, which were word salad mishmashes in the description to try to make people understand whatever she was trying to convey. It never worked out. It never amounted to a bag of beans. And she then continued to still strike it up with other haters, anyone she could, to try to bring grief to me, misery, whatever, to try to take down the channel. Now, the New York State Police that I were dealing with deemed the threats credible, but because she lived in Massachusetts, because of the laws that are around and because YouTube doesn't enforce their terms of service, which it would have been simple had they, because I would have just have to show the threats, and what she was doing on her channel would have been enough to get her down, but YouTube didn't enforce their terms of service. So due to the laws, there being a misdemeanor, they couldn't extradite her from Massachusetts. So we were then told to go to the FBI. The FBI took weeks to go over these threats. They finally deemed them credible, but then it had to go onto the DA's office in her state. This was insane. Now, while the FBI did pay some visits to her home as well as the police department, she was still going down to her police department. And at one point, an officer from there called me saying that she was being a nuisance. And I have a copy of that police report. She was down there saying that I was talking about her on my show. And I liken it to something that David Letterman experienced, where some woman in Montana was saying that he was proposing to her through code words. Of course, he had an unlimited amount of funds to fight this, okay? She abused the order of protection in Massachusetts. You see, in New York, you can't just get an emergency order of protection unless there are certain criteria, which is that you're it's against a family member, an ex-spouse or a boyfriend, or someone you're in family court or a custody battle with in order to get an emergency order of protection. In New York, you can't do that. If there's a criminal action against someone, then you can get that order of protection, but not before. So I had no way to get an order of protection against her. She abused the laws in Massachusetts that say anyone can get an order of protection based on their own mouth saying, I fear this person, to which she walked into a courtroom and told them, I fear me. Without any other proof, they put this emergency order of protection, and I received it via my sheriff's office, who basically told me there's no proof. Don't worry about it. In 2 weeks, there'll be a hearing and they'll dismiss it. They won't extend it. I hired an attorney and paid a retainer to represent me. I didn't want to go anywhere near her. I didn't want to bring my family anywhere near her. That attorney canceled in the 11th hour, which I couldn't believe is even possible. He returned my retainer. I have the canceled check because they like to say that didn't happen. It did. And I have the contract and the email where he had to cancel. I scrambled to find another attorney, couldn't do that. So I prepared all of everything we had of the harassment she's been, giving us, and that she has no proof whatsoever of any things because we have not made any threats to her. And we faxed all of that up to the court for the hearing. We got back, which I have, and it was already posted on another channel that vindicated us because she kept lying about this, that the order was not extended. And the reason being that there was no credible evidence of any threat from me to her to warrant extending that order. So now what was she going to do? Well, she was going to look for people, anyone that she could connect with. So when she used to tell me to look at these drama channels, there was one drama channel where a woman outlined her substance abuse with Xanax. And one day she was wandering around in a parking lot and filmed a live video where she was clearly, allegedly under the influence of some substance. Anybody that knows or was on YouTube at this time and saw that video knows exactly what I'm talking about. She was walking around a parking lot. She was saying there was going to be a shooting in Las Vegas. She was talking incoherently. She was acting erratically. And to my reaction when I saw this, because I left a voice, I said, it looks like she's on the sauce again. That's what I said. It looks like she's on the sauce again. This person from Boston goes to this content creator who is an alleged psychologist. Now, this psychologist got upset with me because I pointed out how her theory, which was absolutely absurd and totally implausible, of how Christopher Watts would have put his deceased children into these oil batteries that they were recovered from, was not possible. She came into our live stream one night and she was talking about this, and then she was telling us something we were doing was totally wrong. And people were like, why are you so angry? What's going on? She was acting erratically at that time. I don't know what she was doing in her life. I can have some speculations, but I didn't get concerned with her. Yet she was a very small channel. She was very concerned with me, to the point that she started to make videos, calling me out, calling me horrible names. And this is an alleged psychologist. Now, would you like to know your alleged psychologist is on YouTube bullying and harassing other creators, calling the viewers of this creator biatches in the title, calling them profane names in the title, okay? Going after me, making these live streams where she's screaming and yelling and lying about me and then deleting them. Well, these two like minds connected with each other. And this woman from Boston tried to convince, because I'm going to say tried to convince, because there's a video about this where this alleged psychologist says, I know that's not about me, or I laughed about it. Anyone knew that that was about that other person. Well, when she realized that she could harness that little bit of information and then bring it forth into a series of videos where she defamed me, slandered me, yelled about me, lied about me, clickbaited her titles, everything under the sun to get views, to get subscribers, to get any kind of action, right? Because drama sells. They then banded together and created these videos, tried to do that. But after a while of ignoring it, her lies became more and more outrageous. And when she started to say things about my parents or my upbringing, things about my children, I had had enough. I put everything in a notebook. I made one very strong video refuting everything she said with proof, and then put it to bed. And you know what? Her channel was so small, it was insignificant to me, she was irrelevant to me, that I moved on to better things. Our channel grew by leaps and bounds. At that time, we didn't even have 20,000 subscribers, okay? Now we have almost 40,000. Her channel has grown very little since that time, because while drama may sell, someone that attacks someone else for clout never does well. They may have short-term gains, they never do well. If they have to rely on attacking others for clout, it's not going to work out on YouTube. It's not. That led to another channel wanting to vindicate us in this, okay? Because they had dealt with both of those creators. They brought forth the protection order that said it wasn't extended because of no credible proof and all of the lies. We had people that were on defending us. And what happened was, the next thing I received is an email from someone that put this and said, you better look at this, because this Boston person wrote in this email to them that she wanted myself, my husband, the content creator that put that video vindicating us up, and one of the persons who testified that this was all fake lies and they knew, my character, everything, wanted us all to die a violent death. So I informed the other two creators, let them do what they wanted in their jurisdiction with their police department with those threats, but I wasn't going to stay silent on something like that. Okay, so that brought us into late fall 2019, early winter 2019, and into January of 2020. And that new year brought terror to us in many ways. The first being January 17th of 2020, when someone called the New York State Police and pretended they were my husband and said that he had killed me and our two young sons and was in the house with a firearm and would shoot anyone responding to the house. Well, I happened to be live when they called the New York State Police. And it is my belief they wanted this SWAT, which occurred, to happen on a live. And they wanted us to be killed violently and it to be broadcast. But for some reason, I ended the live broadcast early that night. And I went into the family room to go to my laptop to do some research on a case. And as I sat down, there was a stampede of action running across my porch. And then what sounded like the breaking down of the door. I thought it was a home invasion. I was freaked out. Instead of calling 911, I accidentally called my friend in London. And what happened was I heard my husband coming down the stairs. Now, he would normally grab the shotgun. Had they seen him coming down through the side windows of the front door with the shotgun, he would have been killed, shot on sight. Thankfully, something caused him not to grab that shotgun. But I heard him in what he sounded like pleading because it was a bit muffled. And that had set me off. That I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, this is a home invasion. He's pleading for our lives. At that point, I didn't know what to do. So I thought, okay, do I run out the side door? No, they're probably all out there. They'll see me. It was snowing slightly on the ground. I didn't even have the proper footwear, coats. Everything was on the other end of the house where I'd definitely be seen by them. And would I grab my firearm? If I had grabbed a firearm, thankfully it was not where I was, because I most certainly would have been killed, because I thought this was a home invasion. At that point, I'm standing in the hallway, the door opens, and my husband, and the way he's walking in front of these men dressed all in black with nothing from the state police obvious, it really looked like a home invasion. It looked like he had a gun to his back. And the way he said something like, honey, sounded like, honey, we got to do something. You got to give them something. At that point, I pleaded with these men in black. Take anything you want. Take anything you want. I'll give you the bank account numbers. I'll give you whatever cash is in the house. I'll give you whatever valuables we have, jewelry. Take it all. Just spare our lives. And then I said, with my phone in my hands, I've already called the police. And they said, we are the police. I literally collapsed, heaving, sobbing, hyperventilating. I have so much PTSD because of this. And I will tell you that I said to my husband, please take a photo of this. They will never believe this. They will never believe this happened. They will deny it, just like they deny the order of protection not being extended, just like they deny everything. It will be denied. And so he did. They still denied it. They said they were so crazed in their thinking that they said it was my sons that were dressed up, that there were people that we had, actors, that it wasn't real, it was Photoshop. No matter what, you could not convince them. Even seeing a police report would not convince them. Nothing would convince them. Okay? It's the way they are. They are just malignant narcissists, will not believe anything and will spread lies. So after the SWAT, one good thing happened, that once we had the SWAT, even though they called the police several times again with the same scenario, we were in the system. So thankfully, we wouldn't be killed in SWAT. But do you know what? The whole time when I was standing in the hallway, I thought, oh, great. Nobody listened. YouTube never listened. Now there'll be a law named after me. But sadly, that's what it takes. There's always got to be someone that's hurt for someone to do something. And who's it going to be? It's very sad that they cannot enforce their terms of service. YouTube, you need to enforce your terms of service. There were several other threats with this creator, with smaller creators constantly attacking, constantly slandering. Then I lost my son unexpectedly, tragically on May 6th. And I got a call while I was live. And do you know these people accused me of faking that to the point that they called the funeral home. They called the funeral home to see if it was real. And then the very night my son died, I was getting calls from these people and saying that they were going to shoot up the funeral home if we were there. They never let it stop. Their abuse never stopped. They were going to shoot up the funeral home. They said things about my son. Then even that woman from Boston, can you imagine the audacity of her? She called me that very night to try to dig for information in order to have this big scoop for YouTube. It was insane. It was absolutely insane. Okay. After the SWAT got together with a retired police detective and some other YouTube creators to try to, encourage YouTube to do something, but that didn't do anything. We didn't get anywhere with that. Now it's after the death of my son, and I'm being tormented more and more because they figured, wow, well, she's got to get to a breaking point now that'll be easier to get her off. So they started to use my son to attack me, okay? And lie about his death, lie about things, go on panels just to try to enrage me. It was insane, insane. They went on panels. They used pictures of my minor sons as their thumbnails while they said the most disgusting jokes, what they thought about my son. And I couldn't get YouTube to do a thing about even getting my minor children's pictures down on those channels because they use bots and they don't recognize it. It's unbelievable. So in November of 2020, I was contacted by someone who wanted to speak to me about the Watts case after it had renewed interest thanks to a Netflix documentary that was in the victim's point of view that my friends, the Ruseks, worked with. And I checked out this person, saw there was a Facebook page, saw that it was nothing but conspiracy, lies, clickbait, wanted nothing to do with this person. Well, that would set forth some type of resentment that manifested itself in June of that year. But before that, there was another case, the Sophie Long case, in which my viewpoint about it was challenged by someone called Truthy Magoo, who just happened to be with all these haters, including the Boston person and another male creator that was attacking me. And along with, the alleged psychologist was all thrown into this. And so they would band together. But this Truthy Magoo had his own skeletons in his closet, which were exposed. And at which time they did, he thought the only way out of that was to fake his own death, which was then exposed as the lie. And that got them off YouTube, him and his, I don't know if it was his wife or his fiance, but I'm sure they're on here in another name in an alt, as they usually are, which brings us to what YouTube has to do is verify accounts, only have one account per person and have it verified so that they know who that person is and that person is accountable to their actions that occur on YouTube. So if they're harassing and bullying somebody, they're held accountable for that. Anyway, the Watts case brought about more trolls, and the Rusek family, Shanann's family, was constantly being targeted, and they were trying to stop these channels that were coming out with nothing but conspiracy, false narratives to keep the case going for clicks and views and money, right? I became privy, something was emailed to me about some sort of a script that these channels that wanted to continue with this Watts case under a false narrative were planning to run throughout the summer. This is in June of 2021, where now that person that was new to the Watts case was embroiled in all of this new Watts coverage, right? This fake Watts coverage. The family and I decided to go live, expose this script so that these content creators wouldn't have anything, okay? We would expose their storyline, and we did just that. And it was an extremely, extremely popular video, but it brought about such hatred from these channels who basically lost their whole storyline for the summer, okay? Because they feel that cases should be made into, sort of a reality TV that's not really reality at all, but it's all fake scripted extensions of a case that's closed. Brought even more hatred to me, but most especially from that woman okay, who had a criminal past, who was charged with scamming a woman out of her income tax. She pled it down to a misdemeanor, but the facts are she took a woman's income tax refund, told her she didn't have it deposited yet, deposited it in her daughter's account, and kept it from the woman until the woman finally proved that it had been deposited, and then she was arrested. I've also talked to families that she supposedly worked with on missing persons cases who said they were scammed out of things, allegedly, and a long line of alleged scamming. Well, she did this mostly on Facebook, but decided to come to YouTube and do it, where there's a lot of eyes on her. And she's running a lot of different fundraisers, which are not run in accordance to what they should be. And they seem to be fraudulent, okay, allegedly. And there's a lot of really bad behavior, but behavior that's against terms of service that she already lost 2 channels for and circumvented a ban, which is enough to get her channel removed, as it has channels much bigger than hers. But yet YouTube didn't do that and continues to allow her to abuse others on YouTube. She came on a panel of mine right after we exposed the script, where I asked her about her racist comments against her niece, which are well documented on YouTube. And because we called her out on something that she could not explain away, she started to get very loud. And after that, got off the panel and decided to spend the summer making video after video about me, slandering me, making fun of me, age shaming me, body shaming me, taking photos that were not public and putting them on her channel, zooming in on stuff, editing stuff, taking videos that were not her public content, that were to have my young children in them, to try to shame me, to body shame me, to make fun of me, along with this psychologist that had since joined in, doing that to a co-host of mine, showing a woman that's completely bent over in the roadway to try to make it out to be my friend and co-host. Would you like a psychologist that does that, or know that they engage in that type of behavior on social media platforms? Wouldn't you think that they would be above that type of content? I would, but they're not, allegedly. So anyway, we were going through all of this abuse day after day in the summer. In fact, she did this to the point of that I was with the grief of my son to the point of nearly self-harming myself. And I reached out to my moderators for help and said, I'm really, this is ridiculous. Something has to be done about this hate. And I know other family members of victims' families that have been driven to that point, and it shouldn't be so. It shouldn't be so. People should not be allowed to abuse the terms of service and not have consequences. So they were not getting a reaction about me because I was ignoring all their stuff, to which they got worse until they went and brought my son into it. And this creator played a video that she said she agreed with and would do that said the most heinous, disgusting things about my deceased son. While the chat went into it and started joining in with it, yes. And my reaction to that was immediate, and it was explosive. I had had enough. This mama bear had had enough. Okay, enough. And I reacted to that, thinking, you don't go near someone's kid. Well, that resonated with a lot of people who thought their behavior was completely over the line, but it didn't stop there. It didn't stop there. The creator of that video went to another creator and had them posted until someone had them take it down. And that video is still surfacing, and it's making, and I don't care that it's on my channel, that's my content, but they make fun of a grieving mother. They make fun of driving a grieving mother to that point. And it's just absurd. It's absolutely absurd. The abuse didn't stop after that. It continued. It continued and continued and continued. There was hate incited by that content creator. She incited so much hate in her chat and in channels that cropped up, including one that was created in August, saying that CPS should be called on me. Glitter bombs were sent to me. Okay. That creator said she was happy that was sent to me. She would gladly pay for that. And she would like to shake the hand of the person that did that. Okay. She didn't care what it could have done. that it could have harmed our pets, that it could have harmed myself, that my children, it was a pornographic one. It was disgusting. Okay. Thankfully, we didn't open it. Thankfully, we were able to contact the company. This is horrendous. This is horrendous. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. Okay. So these new channels crop up. One, using the business address, using my content, but the business address of a company in the UK, company that I contacted when I gave them a copyright strike, and that's what they countered with. That company said, we're not connected with that channel. They're impersonating us, to which we brought that to YouTube's attention. And this channel only rescinded one of their counters. So the other two, they're fine with impersonating that company and or think that's going to fly. And they are not going to be held legally responsible for that. Okay. But the company is, because if they don't rescind it, we're going to go to that company and expose that company, because then you are that company. So one way or the other, you're going to be held accountable for that. Now, beyond that, you have that other channel, and all of those people on that woman's channel that are over there calling for CPS calls, calling to go real life fraudulently. Why would they call CPS? My children are not neglected. My children are not in any danger of having any issues that would require CPS, except that they want to be a nuisance to us. Why would they call the police on us? Why would they do any of this? And yet this is okay. This is unacceptable. This is acceptable to have channels that are doing nothing but creating hate content. Okay, lying about, saying that I'm stalking their mother. Just they're lying about everything in order to incite hate. And one of these days, hate is going to be incited to the point that someone that thinks they are trying to please their cult leader is going to harm someone, kill someone in order to please them, especially when you have that person saying, I love the person that sent them the glitter bomb. I would gladly pay for it and shake the hand of the person that does that. And you see the hate incited, and that all being against YouTube terms of service. Where does that bring us now? The abuse must stop. People should not be threatened, harassed, bullied, and victims should not have to suffer even more by having their deceased family members lied about. Conspiracy theories and total lies being masqueraded as new leads and developments in closed cases to extend interest and cash flow to unscrupulous channel creators who care about nothing and don't care about the hurt and anguish that this causes grieving families. This abuse needs to stop. Will you help us? Please, please tweet this video out, share this video, bring awareness to this video that talks about the abuse and the terms of service that are being broken on YouTube with no consequences to the creators. Please help us. Send this to your local legislators, your local lawmakers, your local media contacts, national media contacts, anywhere you can get this out there. Please help us get this out there to bring awareness and shine a spotlight on this abuse that is going on YouTube. And if you have any questions about anything in here, you need to contact me. My email's in the video description, but it's Carolyn, CAROLYN, @truecrimechat.org. Thank you very much for listening. And I really, really hope that you can help us share this and get awareness for this, because this is just a tip of the iceberg and such a brief synopsis. There is so much more that I haven't even been able to elaborate on here, but thank you for listening. God bless.